Welcome to Ask Rich and Ed from Procurement Says No.
Woo.
We get a lot of listener questions, which we love to answer with insightful views and advice. Now we've created a whole new way of listening to Ask Rich and Ed with bite-sized mini podcasts full of useful answers to your questions.
Ooh, nice. Bite-sized chunks.
Let's see what questions we've got this time, Ed.
Well, Rich, will they be fatuous or inane? Or insightful? Your word, not mine. Let's make it real.
Boom. And this time, we've got special guest stars Graeme Hunter and Verity White helping us out. So, firstly, from Michael Hunt in Bristol, in the UK, Mike asks, what are the 3 key differences between this and the old OJU PCR 2015 regulations?
Overarchingly, I would say, the kind of theory behind it is fairly similar, so don't expect anything too mega exciting. They've brought in loads more bureaucracy and paperwork.
Yay! So thrilled to hear that.
The main point, I think, of the Act is to make it better for suppliers. It's not necessarily making it better for procurement people, but it's definitely trying to make it better for suppliers to bid for things. There's also a new central supplier database called the Supplier Information System, which is being created. I'm trying to think of I've got kind of 4 or 5 different main differences, but I think one of the other ones is just to do with the processes themselves. So there's only going to be 2 different processes. There will be the open process, and then there will be the competitive flexible procedure.
Ooh. Right, this is from Sheila Hitter from Brighton in the UK. Will the new regulations encourage SMEs to bid for government contracts? I work for a small business and we've always found that bidding is too time consuming and bureaucratic. Yes or no answer?
Yes or no answer?
No.
Well, the process is still going to be time-consuming and bureaucratic. I don't think that's ever going to change, sadly. It's still going to be hard to pass thresholds to get onto frameworks. That's not going to change. I think they're trying to within some of the provisions.
So I think the assumption that it's about smaller contracts and breaking it into specified lots is probably flawed, actually, if you want to get SMEs involved. I think getting SME involved is about talking with them and working with them. You know, I work with them a lot. It's about engagement more than it is about process. I think it will always be bureaucratic.
Okay, next question. This is from Trevor Watt in Leeds in the UK. I've heard that there will be a new system that we will use to manage the tender process. Do you know much about this, and when will it be live? What will the data be used for, and will there be issues with GDPR?
None of us are jumping in to answer this, are they?
What can you even say? Yeah.
So moving swiftly on then, this is from Chris Lyon in Camden in London. Why do we need these rules? This sounds like it's one of Ed's mates.
Yeah, he's my man, Mr. Chris Lyon.
Surely we should become more commercially savvy and not be required to follow such strict guidelines.
If you look across the world, there are countries which have a real problem with procurement and money going to places because of who is there rather than because of need. £1 in every 3 of your taxes and my taxes is spent with the private sector in this country. It's like £300 billion every year. And I do think there is some responsibility to kind of make sure that is spent effectively and gets good value. And frankly, the public sector doesn't have the same drivers and simplicity of motive that the private sector does to get the right answer out of that. So it's slightly surprising for me as the market person to be making this case, but I do think there is a need for some level of controls. However, I think the response to it has been onerous on both the public sector and suppliers, and has therefore become expensive to operate and bureaucratic and all the other things we've talked about. I think there are better ways of doing this.
Yeah.
And but I do think you need some rules.
But the default is it mustn't be defrauded. There mustn't be cheats. There mustn't be stealing. But the way that the private sector look at it is the other way around, isn't it? It's about the value that we get. So if I took that 300 billion, say there was fraud to the tune of $1 billion, and $1 billion was siphoned off. We didn't catch it. It just happened and people got rich. If we were operating within the private sector, we would save more than the $1 billion we lost. Because if we're in the private sector, the drive would be to save 5-10% of that. So on the 300 billion, you'd save 30 billion overall in terms of doing more effective, better procurements. So it's the way that the telescope is looking at it for me that's wrong. If you created a legislative environment that said, if you defraud the government, you're going to prison for 10 years. The starting point is bureaucracy and stopping things happening rather than encouraging and trying to audit it out.
All you're doing, though, Ed, is like transferring the cost to the other end of the process. Like if you go to a reactive, we're going to investigate potential fraud. That's like more police, more judges, more prosecutors, like more prisons.
We can't move from a controlled to a completely uncontrolled environment anyway, where we are now with what we've had in place for such a long time. But I think part of it is investing to save as well. If you invest in upskilling the people that are doing the doing, so they are better at doing what they're doing, that's a lot of doings in one sentence, then they will end up with a better result. Why aren't your procurement people looking at total cost of ownership? Why aren't they looking at value-based procurement? Why aren't they looking at all of these bigger picture things and working together in a more holistic way to actually make something which is a more long-term saving rather than just widgets and pounds and pence? And I think that is an upskilling problem rather than a control and process problem.
The next question is from Peter Nurse, who is also in London. I like the idea of the new dynamic markets process. How does this differ from the old dynamic purchasing system, DPS?
Fun fact, dynamic marketplaces, you can only use them to award over threshold procurements.
Which is weird, isn't it? Why not? If they work well, then why not use them for under threshold? That's bizarre. And what would stop you from using it?
So that on its own, I think, means that it's not really going to be that. It's fine if you want to buy big things.
I wonder why they came up with that rule that it has to be above threshold. Weird. Right, next question. And this one is from an adapter in Carlisle. Will procurement teams be able to develop their own best practice procurement processes under the new regs? And do you think this will then spread across public procurement to create a single, better way of working?
Isn't that what the competitive flexible procedure is meant to be?
Whether it will all coalesce into a single best practice way of working, though.
Oh, God, no.
Dream.
What will happen is every single authority /trust /department will create their own version of what they want the tendering processes to be, and rather than being like flexible and like changing it based on what the specification in the market is, they'll have like, no, these are our versions and they're the ones that you can use. That's what I can see happening.
My heart sort of sinks with this question, to be honest, because I sort of just picture this stream of words and documents and PowerPoints and requirements kind of flowing out and everyone pinching the bits they like and things just getting more and more complicated over time.
Right, next question is from Oliver Balls in Manchester. I understand that frameworks will be up to just 4 years. Is this correct? And will this lead to more frequent and higher transition costs for repeat purchases, or does it drive value, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Is it 4 years? Not for contracts, so what's that? Is that longer?
Yeah, the new flexible framework basically is meant to address the fact that 4 years often isn't long enough, and it gives you a chance to almost reopen the framework at certain points, as long as you say when that's going to happen, to add more time. Say what you're going to do it. If you don't say what you're going to do, you can't do it. So you've got to have a magic crystal ball right at the beginning to work out what it is you're going to do and write that out, because otherwise, if you don't say it at the beginning, you cannot do it. And at that point, you can go back to all of the people on the framework and say, do you want to adjust your bid? So it will move with the market conditions more.
They were great questions this time, weren't they, Ed?
Oh, they were super duper.
And there'll be more questions about the Procurement Act 2023 next time.
Bye.
Bye.